films about earthquakes, airplane disasters, and blazing infernos. But there has never been anything like the Devil's Reign. His face.
That wasn't your father.
Was his face.
John.
Mother? Mother! Columbus! Damn you!
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
How do?
This week, we are discussing the horror classic, The Devil's Reign.
It's a shat-tastic movie.
It is absolutely shat-tastic, and it stars William Shatner, Ernest Borgnine, Eddie Albert,
Anton
Tom
LaVey.
Skerritt, Anton LaVey. John Travolta is in this. If you're
Is
looking
he
close,
the kid? I kept trying to figure it out. He's the Puritan kid, or who the fuck is
no.
he?
He is. You have to be paying attention. He is a cultist. He is just one of the cultists, but you see enough of his face that you're like, is that John Travolta?
Crap! I kept looking. I'm like, because he even has a name, and I'm like, who the hell's Tommy? Tommy, can you hear me?
He doesn't have any big monologues, and I think
nor does Anton LaVey.
So it's an all-star cast, to say the least. Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist, we hope. Aaron, how are you doing?
Dude, I saw 2 horror movies with the idea that we could record them,
Okay.
and I don't think it's gonna work.
For
First, not that they weren't good movies. The first one, it said A24. I was like, all right, a ghost story. A24. No, it's this fucking sad thing. This dude dies. So he's literally like the spirit, but like in a sheet. And he's just trapped in the house, and he just quietly watches everybody missing his wife, who eventually moves away. Families come and go. The house gets bulldozed. He travels through time as just this depressed. He has no words after he dies. In the house next door, occasionally, he looks out the window, and there's a ghost looking at him from the other going, I don't think they're coming back. Or they say things like, I don't remember who I was waiting for. It was the most depressing fucking thing I ever saw. And quite frankly, it should have been a short. It's Casey Affleck.
Oh, God. So he's the ghost?
He's the ghost. But once he's killed at the 15-minute marker, he does not speak. He just sits. Sometimes he gets angry and throws stuff like he's the angry ghost. But then after a while, he just stops and stares as time passes. And then it circles all the way back around to his life again. I was like, this is we ain't doing this. This is the most depressing thing I ever saw in your life. Don't kill yourself, because look what your life is going to be, walking around with your bed sheets just staring. And then I saw Abigail, which was it was good. Okay. Abigail is good. I mean, it's not like, holy shit. It's not, Pearl, you know what I mean? But it was fun, and I kind of wish I didn't know the hook, because that would have been a big surprise.
Because they kind of spoil it, don't they?
Right. It's a heist. It's like a heist movie. Because you're like, how do the vampires come into this? It's a heist movie.
Right.
These people go in to kidnap this girl for ransom.
Right.
From a wealthy father.
But it's not really a heist.
It's not really a heist. Right. So it's like a Kaiser Soze. You learn all about all the different people. There's a lot of mistrust, and then reveal the crime syndicate is run by a dude and his daughter, and they're just fucking vampires, and they're bored.
I always wonder about that. We work for the studio. How could you do promotions for this movie where you don't reveal that Abigail is a vampire? Because that's all revealed in all the commercials. I haven't seen it. So I'm trying to think how you would do it without revealing that.
You would have to reveal it. Well, the new Heathers, they managed to not tell anybody it's a musical for fear that people would not come because it was a musical.
Right.
I mean, you would have to bill it like some kind of a buddy heist.
Right. But that's not what it is. You'd be misleading the audience.
But you're misleading the audience. It is like a heist film, and it's kind of slick, and there's a lot of weird and interesting characters. There's a dude that looks like a slow buff Elon Musk. I leaned over to my son. I was like, "Does that dude look like Elon Musk?" This explains a lot.
It explains a lot. No, it looked like something I'd want to see.
Right.
So.
It's not going to win awards.
Right.
There's just over the top blood. Not necessarily over the a head falls off, but like when the vampires die, they literally turn to a blood bomb where it's just like so by the end, people just have other people's just dried blood just stuck all over them.
Lovely. But it
was entertaining.
It was worth watching.
It was worth watching.
Is it a rental or is it a go to the theater?
I mean, I had fun at the theater because, you're in these big spooky mansion, but I don't think I was at MPX or something. Okay. I was running late editing pictures, so I couldn't go to the cheaper one because I'm like, why is it $12 on a Sunday morning?
Right.
And then I found I was at MPX. So I don't know what I got with MPX that I wasn't getting in a regular thing. But
I get gooched on that sometimes because, you pay a premium because they come in, there's a waiter or whatever. But
no waiter. No. This is MPX was whatever the sound or the video that they're projecting.
Well, I've had it where you do have the waiter, but I didn't realize I had the waiter, so I still waited in line for the popcorn or whatever, and then I see the waiters walking around. I'm like, okay,
no,
thanks for nothing.
I personally, we have one of those theaters, and I stopped going to it. I find it fucking irritating to have people. First of all, the theater never gets that dark. And you got people moving all the time. Crying, time.
Well, and you got to talk to the waiter.
You got to talk to the waiter. Yeah. Lights are going. I mean, and you got all the weird, 1,000 smells. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Smells.
All these movie theaters, the only thing they don't have is they don't have a bar. But you can pretty much order anything you want nowadays to take in the movies. I still just prefer popcorn because that's all just getting microwaved or squeezed in a tube. So let me just have my popcorn.
I've been to theaters that have lunch too.
Yeah. I mean, our theater with the waiters has a bar out front where you can just hang out if that's your jam.
Buy your ticket and then just hang out at the bar. Good
dude.
Thinking.
I went years ago. I think I went to go see like the Depeche Mode documentary or some other nonsense, and some homie was like yakking at me, and his movie ended like 3 hours before. He was just there to drink.
That's weird.
At the movie theater next to the farm supply store. So there we go.
I mean,
get some more of them nachos.
At risk of talking about movie theater experiences for too much longer, it's like there's a point you want to be comfortable, but you don't want to be so comfortable that you're taking a nap. And especially like booze. It's like, drink some hard liquor and then you just fall asleep for the next 2 hours. That ain't gonna work.
Don't get me wrong. I, of course, have brought bottles of wine and beer into the movie theater in the Big Purse. Yes. Our cousin kicked it over once, and we were at the top, and it just slowly rolled, clink, roll, clink, all the way down. And people were like laughing.
Womp, womp,
it was very amusing. So I have done that. But they don't serve wine, so they force... Is there a sign? I didn't see a sign walking in that said I couldn't bring a bottle of wine.
So then it's allowed.
I mean, it was 4 people. Right. It wasn't like I just put a nipple on it. It was like,
just passing the jug around.
some Carlo Rossi jug wine.
Absolutely.
No, but there was the distinctive pink When I pulled the
Yes.
cork in the middle of the theater. So
Popping the
we did
champagne.
learn the lesson to pop the cork and then just kind of shove it
Right.
back in
Like you
before you
normally
enter
do.
the theater. Pop.
Give us your 30-second synopsis of.
After a cold brew is also very distinctive. It's always like that perfect pause
Yes.
where you're just.
Give us your 30-second synopsis of The Devil's Rain, if you would be so kind.
The Devil May Cry. So, The Devil's Rain. So, the Amish, the Mennonites, the Puritans, it's John Proctor and Abigail are devil worshippers who then get their sign-in sheet for their club stolen. So they're burned to death, but they don't die. So they travel through time looking for their book because they don't know who all the members are. Aren't they all the people who got burned up by, Abigail Proctor or whatever from the Crucible?
The Crucible.
So in the end, of course, all witches, they do like the desert. Not a lot of prying eyes. Unless you're Aleister Crowley or Anton LaVey, who just hung out in a big black mansion in San Francisco because he don't gives a damn. So anyway, witches, desert, Shatner and his family are the people who dropped the dime on the witches eons ago. Actually, it was his wife who dropped the dime. Because Shatner at the end was like, I didn't know what she was up to. But they all are still reincarnated together. People melted at the end. It's a lot of good The Thing melted crayon special effects. A little long in places, but believe it or not, the previews of the people dancing in the acid rain did give me the creepy peepees when I was a little kid.
So you are familiar with this movie?
I saw this. I believe we were in Lake Arrowhead, and Mother was heavy pregnant with you, so we all had to be quiet to watch movies up in Lake Arrowhead or something, like someplace we'd rented.
I see. Good Lord. Only reason I'd heard of this movie, number one, is because when you're doing research for the Halloween movies, they talked about that the mask that Michael Myers wears is a William Shatner mask.
And it looks just like the William Shatner mask from Devil's Rain.
It is. And that's what they say, that basically they went to the store, like literally just to the store to get a mask. And allegedly, the masks they had were literally the William Shatner masks from Devil's Rain. Like kids could buy the mask that looks like his face.
Weren't things better? Things were better in the olden days.
Sweet Jesus. So at that point, I heard about it. So then I think I did, like, this is like 10 or 15 years ago. I went on like Wikipedia just out of curiosity, like, what the hell's the Devil's Rain? Because I'd never heard of it. Now, about a year ago, Joe Bob showed the Devil's Rain.
I'm sure Joe Bob said, check it out.
He said, check it out. So I had actually seen it once before, like a year or so ago.
And yet you agreed to see it again.
And yet because you know what it is? It's like, it seems, my recollection of it was so bonkers. It is so ridiculous remembering this. But watching it this time, I was like, this is just tedious. It was like they literally were like, this thing's only about 65 minutes long.
Yeah.
So we need to really have a good half hour of people melting at the end, where it just goes on and on and on.
That's what got my attention.
That'll do it. Because what else are you gonna do?
I mean, around this time, of course, all the statues and buildings in Europe were melting because of acid rain. Do you think this is some kind of also play on that? The fears?
This is the thing. The Devil's Rain, they don't really explain what it is. Really? They kind of like, what is it, 45 minutes, an hour in, they kind of suggest what the Devil's Rain is, but they don't really explain it. So let's just jump right in all the way to the end, if we could.
Well, I just want to say
Please.
what popped into my mind and the reason I recommended it, because I
Please.
went to the same movie theater to see the Shatner documentary.
Oh, really?
Yes, just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was good. It was
The
interesting.
documentary was good.
The documentary, which theatrical release, were they thinking this was they gotta slip it in for the Oscars? No, this seems more like when I saw the Linda Ronstadt documentary, where it could have gone straight to CNN or whatever.
Not
But
CNN.
it was good. No, CNN sponsors all this shit.
Oh, really?
Then they
Okay,
throw
fair
it on
enough.
HBO Max. It was really good. And the fact that Shatner is like 94,
Yeah,
you would never guess. You would never guess.
he's doing well.
Between the last Star Trek and right now, the only difference is a better rug and about 40 pounds.
I love that you call it Star Trek, right? You say you prefer Star Trek to Star Wars, but you always call it Star Trek. I don't know.
That's something from my childhood. I don't
Sweet
know.
Jesus.
They're just tracking along.
I love that this is, we've talked about this a million times. This is the fallow period of William Shatner after the original series was canceled.
Where he was homeless. He took this job
Yes.
because he was homeless, living in a truck.
Yes. He actually looks pretty good in this. He looks
He
kind
does.
of
He looks
kind of
young.
muscular, and like his shirt is off for like 95% of this movie. I was kind of
They're
impressed.
shooting this shit down in Mexico. They're drinking. They're screwing around. He's single. Come on.
Doing his thing.
This is just the party.
He just had to take what he could get at this stage of the game. And clearly that was the case of most of these actors. You know what I mean? Ernest Borgnine. I mean, it had been a few years since, what was he famous for? I don't even know. Marty? Is that the one?
Ernest Borgnine, yeah, Marty. That's what he won the Academy Award.
Right.
So this has Academy Award winning actors.
Here's an interesting question. Eddie Albert, famously from Green Acres, was he ever young?
No,
Never.
he was never young. He was like Leslie Nielsen.
Yes.
They were like, it was a rougher time. You went from toddler to silver hair smoking cigarettes.
Right.
It was a different time.
So that's neither here nor there. So let's jump right in. We talked about there's a kettle or of something, a call. I don't know what the hell it is. It looks like a TV, frankly, putting a ball.
Oh, I thought you said a kennel, like full of
Kettle.
dogs.
Yes, put them in.
It looked like an Aladdin's lamp that was clear. It looked like something you would see at the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, full of wailing people.
And I guess the idea is the evil devil worshipping devil guy, goathead guy.
Goaty McGoathead.
Goaty McGoathead. He had taken the souls of all the followers. Like, I guess the cult
Like
members.
Ghostbusters.
Like Ghostbusters, exactly. Evidently the cult members were not like willing members of the cult. He had basically taken their souls and put it in this giant kettle, right?
Right.
Which he referred to as the Devil's Rain, because if you look at the little screen in the thing, it's raining in there as they're all lamenting, right? Oh,
it is
Lord.
the best special effects out of this whole movie, because I really like that. They were like, but we see that in other movies
Right.
and things with the people pushing in, trying to get from that dimension back over to here. But that was probably the most effective special effect they had.
So like I said, we're jumping all the way to the end. When William Shatner smashes it on the ground to release the souls, right? It starts raining and all the cult members start melting.
But aren't they the ones whose souls are in that bucket?
So it's, okay, number of questions I have about this. Okay, number of questions.
It seems like a raw deal.
It seems like a raw deal, number one, right? I thought this was going to be their salvation, and maybe it is. Maybe their souls are saved, right? So now they're going on to, heaven or whatever, but their bodies are turned into mush, right? Like when you kill a vampire, you're really releasing their soul, right? They don't get to live,
right?
Theoretically.
There's no takebacks, but now you're not going to hell.
Right.
Again, in these devil movies, they're not really selling it. I don't
No.
see what is it for these people to join up. What are they getting except having eyes that like rats knotted out? It was like pluck it out, pluck it out.
Well, if you listen to Ernest Borgnine, and basically everything he says is talking about the pleasures, and there's
Oh my! He's a Cenobite. Is that
maybe
what it
there's
is?
some pleasures going on off camera. Who's to say,
He
right?
and his goat. Oh yeah, and then the second best thing is when Ernest Borgnine becomes a goat because they spent all their money on that mask.
Yes, his face becomes a crazy goat face. Now that wasn't at the store. The Halloween. Producers did not find the goat face. But so my question is, when they smash it and then it starts raining, you feel that it's acid rain melting the people. But
see, coincidentally, that this is happening at around that same time when people are freaking out about acid.
Right. But Tom Skerritt, who's also in this movie, and his young
all-star cast
wife, whatever she is, and Eddie Albert don't seem to be affected by the rain at all. So I wonder if it's just a bizarre coincidence, like smashing the thing melts the people, not the rain. Like the rain is just, hey, it's raining.
Indoors? It just happens to be raining indoors?
Well, the roof kind of caved in.
Well, Tom Skerritt didn't get his soul took.
No, that's what I mean. So it's like, therefore, it's not the rain is not doing it. It's
the rain only affects the people that had given up their souls, who made the pact.
Okay, fair. I mean, you may be 100% right. You may be like, that's exactly
I
what
don't
the
know.
writers
Maybe
intended.
Tom Skerritt got some exfoliation, but he still had a soul.
Tom Skerritt. I want to talk about Tom Skerritt for half an hour. In my mind, Tom Skerritt's a big star, right?
Not here.
Well, this is early-ish Skerritt. He had already been in MASH. He was one of the 3 leads in MASH, the movie.
It's true. Yeah, when Alien came out, I felt like those dudes were all unknown. It was like the unknown cast. So even though he's had this role, it wasn't the breakout role. Like he wasn't Elliot Gould. He wasn't
Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland.
Right. Well, what's funny about that?
Back until you just said that, I forgot he was in MASH.
Right, because when they made the transition from the movie to the TV show, they eliminated his character. Because in the movie, he was like a racist, like from the South, racist Southern. Nathan Bedford, blah, blah, blah was his name. And they're like, that's not going to work on regular TV. So they just excised that character. So they
replaced him in later MASHes with the high society dude where nothing ever quite fit was right.
Not true. That dude, Charles Winchester,
yes,
replaced Frank Burns, the actor who played the TV version. And he left.
Not for the better. Frank Burns eats worms. It was one of the iconic characters when he and Hot Pants were together scheming. Hot Lips. That's when they were at their best.
Absolutely.
Frank Burns was such a weasel. He was such a conniving little monster.
And do you know who played Frank Burns in the movie?
Tom Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt did not play.
William Hurt.
It was not. It was William Hurt. No, it's oh God, now his name, Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall was Frank Burns in the movie.
I will tell you that back in the old days, I used to think Robert Duvall was kind of handsome, but even back then, Robert Duvall had a terrible reputation, and nobody talks about it at all now. He was the Mr. Creepy Disgusto monster back in the day.
He was roommates in the 60s with Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman.
God,
they were all roommates together. And I'll say this before we get this train back on the tracks. My wife loves Robert Duvall, circa Lonesome Dove. So we're talking old and grizzly Robert Duvall. We're not talking Boo Radley. So that's there.
But first of all, Boo Radley was never hot. But a young Duvall had a certain quality.
Yes.
I never saw Lonesome Dove, but your wife is all countrified.
She's countrified.
I personally had crushes on Gene Hackman at various roles.
That's also bizarre. Let's just all this is all strangeness. Oh, and Ernest Borgnine, I imagine.
Never Ernest Borgnine.
Okay, so
but I do remember. Hang on.
Go ahead.
I
please.
believe when Lucy goes to Hollywood and she's in the fashion show, Mrs. Ernest Borgnine is one of the celebrity wives.
Oh, really? That's
Yes.
and she's not famous. She's just his wife.
It had all these celebrity wives, and you're like, what the? They were like the mousiest looking women compared to their, superstar husbands. But remember, Lucy had the sunburn. She wanted the dress so badly, so they offered to give it to her if she would wear this other dress in the fashion show. But it was like tweed, and she had sunburn, so she was like walking like a zombie.
Okay, interesting.
So there you go. We could be on the Lucy podcast.
We absolutely could.
But we only will discuss I Love Lucy, because any other Lucy thing, except for Yours, Mine, and Ours, stinks.
I'm more of a Here's Lucy kind
Shut your mouth. Nobody's a Here's Lucy kind of guy.
Anywho, so let's talk briefly, ever so briefly, about the plot. So there's the book that you talked about,
right?
Which
the address book, the Devil's Address book,
100%, because they're very sketchy about the details about the book. Other than
it's not even a spell book; it just has everybody's names.
Correct, but it's about 6 inches thick. It's like the phone book. Evidently, William Shatner's family for hundreds of years have been protecting the book from Ernest Borgnine, who I guess he's reincarnated every couple of years to try to get his book back.
And they're all reincarnated with their perfect memory of all their thousands of lives. But no one's ever thought of fucking burning this shit.
Right. Well, we don't know why Ernest Borgnine even wants it back, do we?
He wants to call some of his homies. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
It's not like I need the book to do something with it. Or
no.
Maybe they told us and I'm just blanking on it. But for some reason he wants it. So the movie starts off.
It helps you melt crayons. That's what it is.
100%. So William Shatner's there. Evidently, and William Shatner's father, who's clearly like 10 years older than him, has been...
It's the devil's miracle.
100%. If they confront evil Ernest Borgnine, then they become cult members and their eyes are popped out, and oh god, this freaking movie. So William Shatner goes to confront Ernest Borgnine by himself, which of course is a horrible idea, and it doesn't seem to. So he gets there and there's 100 cultists there. Does he even have a gun? I think he has a gun. And he shoots one of the cultists. And it's a lot of like grape yogurt squirts out of.
It's phantasm blood. It was like green and orange. It's like they're not even humans anymore. They're just robots. They're fembots. What is this?
It makes no GD sense. So, and then William Shatner gets kidnapped by Borgnine and the gang and is like tortured for like 45 minutes. Like they kept cutting back to him. I'm still being tortured. 30 minutes later, they're still getting me. So,
oh my god! It's like classic old Star Trek. It was some Kirk screaming where he's like overly tan, but yet sweaty a great deal. There's a
100%.
lot of sweat and a lot of
yes.
You
get a lot of good Shatner acting, no question. I always say it's like if you haven't seen Star Trek the motion picture lately, the Shatner performance is one for the record books. It is every horrible cliche of Shatner's acting, where you're literally like, I mean, do we even continue filming this movie? Because no one's going to buy this performance. But
no one's going to buy it. It's pure nonsense.
Yes.
He's not really even. Well, I guess he's the star of the show. But and then there's this weird acting. I do have a quote. This is before he's gone out there.
Lay it on me.
I have this written down. It's not even that funny, but it's such a classic. My father would agree with me. Just random,
Yes.
large. You're like waiting for him to finish the sentence.
Absolutely. It's
I
the
believe this
Christopher
is
Walken
about.
school.
Yeah, it's a Christopher Walken. It's the William Shatner. I believe this was an argument about why he should go over and
Yes. Confront the evil wizard or devil
exactly
worshiper, whatever the hell he is.
Mama's over there. Oh yeah, I wrote down all ego as usual.
Oh, standard.
A very Shatner outtakes. Yeah. It's all pure Shatner.
I love that Shatner leaves the house to get in his car. And before he's even gotten in the car, there's a scream from the house. Ah! And he runs back, and his mother's been kidnapped by the cultists, seemingly under his nose. It's like, oh shit. I turned my back for 1 second, and you kidnapped my mama.
You failed again, Shatner.
Nicely done. So now we're introduced to Tom Skerritt, who is Shatner's older brother, younger brother. Who knows? Because Tom Skerritt looks 75 years old even here. So it's not clear what's happening. And we meet him and his psychic girlfriend and Eddie Albert, who's some sort of parapsychologist or something. They're like teaching a class. I don't know what is happening.
Yeah, it's a freak show, and I believe this is where we're going to meet Anton LaVey. Although I don't think he ever shows his face. Doesn't he wear like the gold helmet the whole time? I was looking for the pale dude with a funny beard, and I saw him there.
Right. He doesn't have any lines that I'm aware of. Maybe he's
No.
kind of chanting in the background or something along those lines.
Honestly, they threw him in the background and put him in for some kind of what was the credit? Like advisory credit.
Yes. Technical advisor.
Technical advisor for no reason
Yes.
other than they can say Shatner and Anton LaVey together again.
And I mean, he was the head of the Church of Satan. And if you look it up, they don't claim to be like actual devil worshippers, actually.
They're just having orgies and effing around. Did I tell you I had a friend who was briefly a Satanist in the Bay
Yes,
Area?
I did know that.
So basically, it was dark robes, candles, and group sex. And she handed me her satanic Bible, which I tried to read out loud to her. I'm like, this is the most ridiculous bullshit. I'm like, you're just going up there because you got divorced, and now you're just gonna F your way through this.
Well, I think she was at your wedding, and there was like the the wedding video where she drops a Hail Satan in the middle. We're like, what the?
God knows where that video is.
Sweet Jesus.
Anywho.
So Tom Skerritt goes with the girlfriend, and they're fighting cultists. There's a lot of wrestling, like a lot of exaggerated wrestling with cult members, for God knows what reason.
And they're not putting up much of a fight.
No,
that's it. First of all, they all have their eyes chewed out. So can't you just push them over? Can't you trip them? What the hell?
We don't get the sense that they're blind, right? They're not kind of waving their arms around going, "Where? I think he's over here." There's not a lot of that.
Well, if their eyes are not out,
I don't think they're not out. I just think when you
echolocation,
yes, like a dolphin. I don't think. I think when you're possessed into the cult, your eyes just turn black. I don't think it's. It's like the Wraith, I think is what we're supposed to think here. I don't know. Who knows what's happening?
Also, I was thinking this was Arizona. I'm like, not another Arizona. Satan is coming to town. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. I wrote down Eddie Albert had his hands on what is it? Satan's TV. I'm like, I don't know why he didn't just smash it when he had it. Why do you too much yakety schmackety, more smashity smashity?
That was the most ridiculous moment. Eddie Albert and Tom Skerritt are hidden up in the rafters of the satanic mass. And the cult members, I think, have Tom Skerritt's girlfriend or dragging her in. And Tom Skerritt's like, F this, and jumps into the crowd to fight 30 people? Is that your plan? Even Eddie Albert's like, no, I don't remember his character's name.
He's
No,
sliding
Tom,
into the mosh
don't.
pit. He was gonna get into the pit.
So he proceeds to get his butt kicked. Eddie Albert walks down past the cultists. They don't seem to be that concerned. He picks up the Devil's Reign thing and holds it up over his head. Hey, I've got this. Immediately, a possessed William Shatner comes and takes it from him. I'm like, bro, come on.
I mean, Eddie Albert, it's like he was about 20 years older than William Shatner, so that didn't seem like a fair fight. It'd be like me going over and like pushing Mom down.
Right. It was the most ridiculous. It's like, bro, come on.
Come on. Give Eddie Albert a break.
No, there was a funny moment earlier in the movie. Tom Skerritt and the girlfriend are walking through the ghost town where the cultists seemingly live. And out of nowhere, a cultist tries to run them down with a car and misses and crashes. Later, which is convenient because the devil people like blew up his car earlier, trapping them. So like, oh, thank goodness the cultists left their car for us to steal. And the girlfriend drives because Tom Skerritt's like, I can't leave. I got to rescue the rest of my family. So you just bounce, go get the sheriff. She's driving down the road, and then out of the back seat, the possessed mom pops up and kind of gives her the look, and she goes, ah! Takes her hands off the steering wheel, puts her head in her hands, and they proceed to drive off a cliff. It's like, what? Come on, at least keep your hands on the wheel. You know what I mean? At some point, no, not this.
I have some fun facts about Eddie Albert, but I think I should probably wait till behind the scenes.
What other highlights do you got?
Oh, Satan's too dumb to get out of the rain, so this is why he has to keep starting all over again. It's not like Constantine.
No, it's not. Well, and here's an interesting fact. The people who have hidden the book that he's so desperate to find get possessed and join the cult. Don't they know where the goddamn book is? If they're now members of the cult, they go, oh yeah, it's behind the sofa.
That's where I put it. But they're out of it. I mean, it's not fun. You want more of an Anton LaVey, we're going to listen to heavy metal music and have orgies and get loaded, versus I'm just going to have my eyes gnawed out and stand around in a black jacket in the middle of Mexico in a sweltering hot summer. That doesn't sound like fun.
It doesn't sound great. I'm going to be honest with you. No, there's
I do have a note that says how much sauce fell into Tom Skerritt's mouth at the
yes. When everybody's melting, and it's 30 minutes, and honestly, some of the melting effects were kind of stomach churning a little bit because there was a lot of. They basically had like kind of an appliance over their face, right, to simulate the black eyes that the cult members have. So what they did is they put, they hid tubes in the appliance. So when the Devil's Reign hits them, now there's like green goo like dripping out of their eye sockets or out of their nose or wherever, out of their ears.
The ship was dripping everywhere. And it was like the peach-colored crayon was dripping out. This is John Carpenter, right? This is John Carpenter.
It's not, but it might as well have been.
Oh my God! Why did I think this was John Carpenter directing this?
No, this is early. This is before Carpenter was even on the scene, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes.
Oh my God! Maybe they scraped everything up because I was going with he had all this shit left over from the Thing, but clearly he saw this. It's like now I figured out what to do with the Thing when I future make it.
The Thing was 9 years later.
He always had it in his back pocket. He was waiting. He's like, melted crayons, crayons. Must remember, melted crayons.
100%. 100%. So there's another moment that I forgot to mention. When they discover the Devil's Reign in like the little hole in the ground in the church, they just leave the book laying on the floor. You know,
now it's not a priority. Now it's not a priority.
They leave the goddamn book on the floor and hide up in the rafters. And literally, it was John Travolta. Cult member John Travolta goes, oh shit, here's the book. I expected Ernest Borgnine to be like, well, where did you find it? I was just laying on the floor back there. Yeah.
It's been back here all day. Is this what you were looking for, bro?
And it wasn't like he says, like, yes, now I can complete the ritual. No. He's like, okay, cool. I can add it to my collection, add it to my library. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for nothing. One thing you did mention is that when Shatner is fully cultish and he's like face to face with, I think, Tom Skerritt, when they zoom in close on his cult face, he looks like Michael Myers
Yes.
because
He
of the
full
black
on
dead
looks
eyes.
like
Yes.
yes. Just like a solid color foundation, no
Yes.
highlights, no lights. They just spray tanned him.
100%.
Yeah,
It was
100%.
it
He
was
just
like
needed
eerie.
a shock of orange hair, and it would have been perfect.
Would have been perfect. So, and then the ending doesn't make any goddamn. So, okay, the Devil's Reign has occurred. They've killed Ernest Borgnine, and everybody's turned into mush. Tom Skerritt, Eddie Albert, and the girlfriend escape, and they're like, "Oh, thank goodness!" And Tom Skerritt is hugging the girlfriend, and of course, she looks dead
Yeah.
at the camera, and he's hugging Ernest Borgnine, all 350 of him, and he doesn't notice. Oh, damn! What's that? Is that gin? Is that gin I smell in Pall Malls? Right, and then it cuts to, I guess, a new Devil's Reign is formed, because then there's the girlfriend pounding on the screen, going, "Oh, help! Oh!"
They just have a whole bunch of those amphars or M4s or just laying around.
I guess so.
Ernest
Who's
and
to say?
Julio, Gallo, Jug
Yes.
in a pinch.
100%.
They're already ready to go. They're already ready to go. So when did Devil's Reign 2 come out?
Never. Shockingly enough. No, my last
That
note
is
was just
shocking.
Uzi. Uzi is what I wrote. So
I wrote something that looks like, why was Demi? I don't know.
Demi,
Why you do this to me, Demi? No, I have no idea what Jibba Jabba. And then I wrote Ida Lupino.
Ida Lupino is the mom, I believe.
I know.
Sweet you. Who again was only 10 years older than William Shatner, playing his mother. So there you go.
It was a different time when
It
you
was-
start your career in the 30s and you were the hot ticket. But I think in the 70s, I remember Bugs Bunny cartoons poking fun of these old actors. This is 60s Bugs Bunny, that Hollywood was done with them. They couldn't find work. So it probably was even worse in the 70s. By late 70s, I think maybe we start to get more of a resurgence with That's Entertainment and all that. But yeah, these old stars, nobody wanted anything to do with them.
Well, we've talked about this before. You're right. You're in the studio system in the 40s and 50s. By the 70s, you're in the Omega Man or Frogs.
Yeah.
You're in the thing with two heads just because you got to pay
Or the
bills.
Devil's Reign.
Or
Yeah.
the Devil's goddamn reign. Literally. God help us all.
They're like, it was the Devil's Reign or Frogs. I just couldn't decide. What was it going to be?
You're Olivia de Havilland in The Swarm, is what we're talking about.
Olivia de Havilland, who was Gone with the motherfucking Wind.
Such is life. Shall
But
we go
little Susie's at SC. We got to pay the bills.
I'm trying to keep the electricity on. Absolutely. Shall we go behind the
100%.
scenes?
Do it.
Let's see. Oh, good. I have nothing ready yet. Give me 1 second.
I'm sure there was nothing behind the scenes.
No, there's a ton of stuff. Ernest Borgnine revealed at a convention panel in 2010 that the movie was financed with mafia money and he was never paid for his work.
Sounds about right. Because who are you going to complain to? Jimmy Hoffa?
It's true. The shooting of the film was plagued by eerie events and accidents. Because of this, Ernest Borgnine vowed never to work on the project of this subject matter again. So there you go.
All right.
Years later, in an interview with VH1, John Travolta was reminded of this film and said, "Oh, that's a terrible movie," he quipped with a big laugh. And there were so many big stars in it. That is true.
It's true. True and true. Was that pre-Scientology or post-Scientology?
Both. You know what? Actually, The woman who plays the girlfriend was a Scientologist and handed John Travolta a copy of Dianetics on the set. This is not a joke.
Holy shit.
Not
Get him.
wild.
Fascinating.
Let's see. There were a lot of stars. That it's that thing where it's like these people were considered for this movie, and it's like
All lies.
it's a bunch of BS here.
So you don't have any real trash? Ernest Borgnine, Ida Lupino, Captain Kirk, Punched Out. I don't know. Ernest Borgnine.
This movie's disastrous reception arguably killed off director Robert Fuest's career. Fuest had previously directed The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Oh, I love The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Dr. Phibes Rises Again.
Also a classic.
And The Final Program in 1973.
Let's face it, those are great because it's Vincent Price and he's funny.
We really do need to do The Abominable Dr. Phibes at some point.
And Theater of Blood, another classic.
No question. The Devil's Reign suffered such a critical drubbing that Fuest immediately was forced to retreat to television, directing several nondescript TV movies and series episodes over the years. He has made only one additional theatrical feature, something called Aphrodite, which was a softcore sex romp shot in Greece.
That sounds about right. I was like, it's porn, for sure.
Oh, it's gotta be. It's a sad. The horror punk band, The Misfits, took the title of their 2011 album from this film.
I only know The Misfits because a bunch of people wear the shirt. Every generation, all the kids wear The Misfits. And I'm sure they could not tell me a single name, but it's a great shirt.
Makeup and special effects artist Ellis Berman Jr. used wax figures and inflatable sex dolls to simulate the melting bodies in the finale.
See, I told you. Anton LaVey provided the sex dolls.
No question. Let's talk about the cast and crew, shall we?
Let's.
Ernest Borgnine played Jonathan Corbus, the crazy goat-headed cult leader. You know him from Marty, Escape from New York, The Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, God, that's such a good movie.
And 55 episodes of Airwolf with Jan Michael Vincent. I forgot about that.
Jan Michael Vincent, back in his day, was pretty foxy.
He was a handsome devil before the cocaine took him.
Cocaine.
Eddie Albert played Dr. Sam Richards.
I gotta tell you, he had a huge career.
Oh, absolutely. He was in Roman Holiday in 1953.
He's in The Longest Yard.
He was in The Longest Yard and The Longest Day in 1962.
He was in Escape to Witch Mountain. He covered all the bases. He was in Oklahoma. He was the traveling salesman who tried to run off with Ado Annie.
Yep.
At gunpoint. He was in Dreamscape.
He was in Dreamscape, absolutely.
I'm just digging. I mean, The Sun Also Rises, The Lorax, the original. I mean, he did everything from high end to low end.
170 episodes of Green Acres.
2015, he was in Trumbo. Did you see that?
I did see Trumbo. I enjoyed it.
I mean, come on. He's been in everything.
He's the hardest working man in show business. Ida Lupino played Emma Preston, the mom of William Shatner and Tom Skerritt. She was in High Sierra in 1940, The Hard Way in 1943, Ladies in Retirement in 1941, and Pillow to Post in 1945.
But the one I remember her from is she plays a nun in The Trouble with Angels. You're too young to remember this. But
yes, I am.
Me growing up, our mother was obsessed with movies about tall people, movies about large families, and movies about nuns. And The Trouble with Angels is there are two of them, at least two of them, about these nuns at this girls' boarding school. This was like, I don't know, 1966. And the hijinks these young Catholics get into.
There are a lot of hijinks. Let's see. William Shatner, of course, played Mark Preston, who you think is the protagonist, but is really a damsel in distress, I guess, at some point.
He was a puss. He was for sure a puss.
You know him from Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, and 1,000 episodes of T.J. Hooker.
Now let's break this down.
Please.
As far as Star Trek,
Yes.
we have to look at the original series.
Absolutely.
Passable. Now when we look at the movies, I'm going to throw down The Wrath of Khan, take the rest, wrap them up, burn them, until we then come to Jean-Luc Picard.
The rule of thumb is the odd Star Trek movies are horrendous. The even ones are pretty good. So there
I
you
mean,
go.
the first Star Trek, it's a wonder there were ever any other
No.
Star Treks.
Horrendously boring. Awful.
The one with the fucking whales. I mean, the one where Spock dies, that is, of course, very upsetting.
Yes, that's Wrath of Khan.
See? That's all you need to see. It has it all. Freaking
Keenan
Spock
Wynn.
dies, and it has Ricardo Montalban walking around with no shirt on.
What else do you
What
need?
else do you need to see?
Keenan Wynn played Sheriff Owens ever so briefly. You know him
Keenan
from
Ivory Wayans? What?
100%. Keenan Wynn. He was Colonel
He
Bat
wouldn't have
Guano
been born.
in Star. Can I
What
get
is
through
that?
this? goddamn-
Captain Bat Guano?
In Doctor Strangelove. He was in Annie Get Your Gun in 1950. Song
No,
of the
Keenan
Thin
Wynn's
Man.
a real person.
Yes. And he was Captain Cully in The Last Unicorn.
Didn't
Remember
see
that
that.
one.
Was that
1982.
good?
Animated.
Yeah. I was
Tom
too cool for that.
Skerritt played Tom Preston. You know him from Alien.
Yes.
He was in Contact in 1997. He was in
think I saw
Top
that.
Gun 1986.
Yeah.
Steel Magnolias 1989.
Yes. He was great as the dad with the firecrackers in the tree.
Absolutely.
Everything about Steel Magnolia is great except for fucking Julia, whatever her name is. I hate her. And I hated her whole part in that.
Let's see.
Shelby.
Shelby. John Travolta played Danny, but in the movie
Danny
he has no
Zuko?
name. Danny Zuko. You know him from Pulp Fiction, Get Shorty, Saturday Night Fever, Grease, The Boy in the Plastic Bubble. The list goes on and on.
Can we review The Boy in the Plastic
I think we
Bubble?
might need to.
I
Shall we
think that's a made TV movie. I don't know if we can stretch that.
We
It
can
is
do
a bit
whatever
of a
we want.
horror show.
No question. The Devil's Reign. Let's talk about the rating, shall we?
Do it.
Currently, Devil's Reign, 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know what the audience gave it?
18.
34.
Oh.
Let's look at the top critics. There's only one top critic. Roger Ebert. He watches everything.
He watches every goddamn thing. He and Joe Bob.
100%. All of this would be good, silly fun if the movie weren't so painfully dull. 1.5 out of 4.
Yeah.
Very upsetting.
He ain't
Aaron,
wrong.
what is your rating for The Devil's Reign?
I am going to give it a very disappointing. It would be funnier to goof on if it wasn't so painfully slow. As you said, it is a 60-minute movie trapped in a 90-minute timeline. So I'm going to give it 2 melted crayons up my ass.
It's always up the ass.
It's painful.
It's painful. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to give it 1.5.
Then that's not agreeing with me.
We're pretty close. We're knocking on the door. Knock, knock, knock. No. It's like there are moments that you're just like, it's so ridiculous you have to laugh.
Right.
but they're few and far between, frankly.
I needed more Shatner. I needed more ridiculous Shatner.
Absolutely.
I needed less long pauses and people driving, even less Tom Skerritt.
Well, the problem with Tom Skerritt is he's like a real actor. Like he's actually acting in this, which is not that entertaining in the sense that you want more Shatner, where it's so
Yes.
over the top, so ridiculous that you just kind of luxuriate in it.
And Shatner just cops out. He's like, I have my religion to keep me strong, and immediately just folds.
He does. He falls. He's like, he tries. That was a hilarious moment. So he's running from the cult members, gets to a car, and there's just one of the cult members just sitting in the driver's seat.
And
Just
that's enough.
kinda go,
Ah!
No!
Just fucking run down the road, you jackass!
And it was
It's
clear.
a bunch of old people with no eyes, and one of them's your mom.
No question. It was clear that the guy behind the wheel was just like a teamster. They threw a robe on for face, just like, what? How long do I have to sit here? He does nothing but sit
Dude, it is the Godfather. That's cousin Joey over there. As they said,
Absolutely.
mafia money paid for this. No, none of the actors actually end up getting paid. Yeah,
there. It's upsetting.
wash
It's
that
upsetting to all.
laundry.
Any last thoughts about The Devil's Reign, for God's sakes?
I mean, there are moments, but unless you really want to deep dive the early works of the Shat, you might want to pass.
I think you got to pass this. Pass it by.
Or just
No
fast
question.
forward to the melting crayons.
But then it's like you're watching 5 minutes of the movie at that point. You know what I mean?
And
100%.
like I said, the
No, it should
most
be on, like,
disappointing thing is all this Anton LaVey, and all you see is his chin. I
maybe,
mean, you
if
see
you're
his
looking.
chin often, and you happen to know what Anton LaVey looks like. You can kind of like, okay, there's a guy with a pointy chin and a weird little black beard.
Not good.
Got to
enough,
be
damn it.
wearing a gold helmet.
So, thank you very much. Go to our pages across social media. We're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, Instagram. The list goes on and on. You may be watching this right
honest
now
to
on
Jesus, you may not see me on X soon because it's so freaking irritating.
YouTube. I mean, we can get on this jag anytime. Pretty much all social media sucks these days.
It
It
does.
truly does for a variety of reasons. So, needless to say, that's where you can find us. You can also email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at
Gmail.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what's your social media situation for the moment?
I got some media. I'm on RT and First Dibs, Aaron Doherty. Just go to my Instagram. That's all you need. The Cult of Aaron. Join the cult.
That's all
Boom.
you need. That's all I need. That's
And
from
did I tell you there's another Cult of Aaron out there? I kept meaning to join them, but instead of I have dashes. They're dots.
So you're saying you have a
Aaron.
false Cult of Aaron?
That's right.
How bizarre is
It
that?
popped up when I was trying to send someone my account. I was like, what?
As you guys know, we like to share the thoughts and feelings of our friends across the social media landscape for the moment. So, referring to our old episode, Species, our friend Carlo from the Movie Loot says, yeah, I remember renting this a couple of times back in the day for reasons. I understand.
I
Sweet
swear to
Jesus.
you, I sent you about 50 things from TikTok.
That's nice of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, we're going to be discussing the horror classic Evil Dead Rises, starring some people that you may or may not recognize. So, yeah,
I'm
that's
just
what
going to
we'll do.
psychically predict that I may not like it.
It is the latest in the ongoing Evil Dead saga. So you can watch it at your leisure on Max for free. So check that good stuff out. Send in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So, thank you very much, and be well.
Be well.